leaders realize their potential, enhancing their productivity and effectiveness. In past, he was the Chief Human Resource Officer of Jindal Stainless Steel and Z Entertainment. He has led HR functions of UOP, a Honeywell company, Deutsche Bank, Dr. Reddy's, and Reliance. He has served on several Apex management committees and has made impactful contribution in the domain of strategy formulation, execution of programs and initiatives in the area of human resource, communication, HR technology, infrastructure, process automation, and administration. He is recognized as a coach and a trusted business partner. Welcome, sir. Thank you.
So over.
Thank you so much, Professor Padmaja and Sarvesh, for the kind introduction. And it's my pleasure and privilege to connect with my fellow HR professionals who are going to be in the professional world very shortly. The topic that has been given by Professor Padmaja is on leaders communication. But I would also talk about some of my experiences as a HR person, and we'll have this session for an hour, and we'll try to wrap it up as far as possible in time. We'll take 45 minutes for the discussion on the topic and then 15 minutes for our question and answer session. And feel free to stop me at any point of time in case you have queries, concerns, or any suggestions and inputs as we go through the process. Okay, I hope this is fine with all of you.
Yes, Praveen, I would, 1 second. Students, can you please enable your cameras? Can you please enable your cameras? I can see Sarvesh, Manaswini, Soumya. Yes.
Okay.
Yes, we can start, Praveen. Yeah.
Okay. So the topic that has been given to me, I think it's for your fourth semester, and it's important topic as far as being prepared for the professional world, as we say, because this is a totally different life altogether as we move from campus to corporate, and that's what we always talk about, because the preparation has to start not now but before. So it's a good time, and communication does play a very important role in the entire scheme of things, because this is the first thing that is noticed whenever any person is interacting with another person. So remember that, and I will go forward in this entire thing. I'll try to cover all the topics that has been given to me. I think there is one: leading strategic conversation, selecting rich communication channels, impact of leadership communication using Johari Window, communication in crisis, and empathetic communication. So these are 5 topics, but it's too long, I guess, but I'll try to touch it as much as possible and be on time. So let's go forward from here. So folks, the most important thing as we talk about leadership communication is, what domain are we in? We are in HR function, so we should also understand what exactly the HR function is supposed to deliver in an organization. So the key thing is that any high performing organization lays emphasis on nurturing and developing human resources. Human resources are the key differentiator, and organizations consistently nurture employees to understand their needs and providing them resources to realize their potential and beat the competition. That's the key. There are constant course corrective measures to set right all the deviation from the agreed strategy and tactics. Now, that's a very long statement, but it's important for you to understand what exactly the HR stands for. HR is not compliance, not policing. It's an all-encompassing function which touches each and every function in an organization. And typically, I see HR in 3 broad verticals. That is talent management, wherein we talk about attracting the right set of people. There's a war for talent, there's branding involved in that, there's a compensation involved in that. Under talent management, you have retention of people, where coaching, counseling, mentoring, high performance management, all those stuff comes into play. And the third one, which is very important again, as a part of a talent management, is a development plan, succession planning, and working on competencies. So the HR process is broadly bucketed into talent management. That's what I spoke of. And then we have the transformation, wherein we talk about employee engagement, policies, work-life balance, and so on and so forth. So one needs to also understand that what exactly the HR is all about, because you're going to go for your campus interviews, you're going to interact with the HR folks outside the world, outside of your campus. They are going to ask you about these things, and they won't expect you to give them insights, not only what you have learned, but what you have understood and how you're going to implement in your professional life. Then second one is culture and communication. Very important aspect. Every organization has a culture. We need to understand what is meant by culture and how do you communicate that. And communication is a total separate topic in HR, which is the key. Because whatever we do, whatever we speak, whatever we communicate, that has a major bearing on the organization. And communication is the thread that weaves it around. So remember that. And third is very important, driving alignment and compliances. So talent management, transformation. And the third piece, which is very important and very relevant in the current context, is the use of technology. We can't live without technology. We are all aware what it is all about. At this point of time, technology is the greatest enabler. I'm sitting in Gurgaon and talking to all of you. This is technology at its best, and we are able to communicate, talk, and speak about anything and everything that we need to do. So in technology, besides the communication, the important thing is analytics, the use of artificial intelligence, that's the key. Virtual reality, mostly used in training, simulation, and so on and so forth. Machine learning, because a lot of things we know how it has to get incorporated and how it can help us in enhancing our skills and capabilities. The other one is HR ERP. There are several ERP which is there. That is always an in thing when we go for your campus interviews. They'll ask you, do you have some understanding on that? So get to know about it. There is PeopleStrong, there's PeopleSoft, there is Darwinbox, there is SuccessFactor, and so on and so forth. They are helping us into optimizing our business processes. And the third most important thing is re-engineering of people processes. So these are the three things that we really look at it when we see how the HR is going to impact. HR, as I said, we can choose to be just administrative function, but the fact of the matter is that HR is not an administrative function. It's a strategic function. It's a function which impacts the company's performance, bottom line, top line, growth, revenues, and everything that we talk about in an organization development. So that's the context in which I would like to really make you understand. But what's the binding force in all these things? It's all about how do we go about in making that communication or a pitch to the people who are concerned with that. So the key thing, as this entire session will go, would be on communication and more so on leadership communication. So we all are in a path of in a journey wherein we are going to become leaders as we move forward. But we need to understand how leaders communicate so that we keep on adopting the good practices and take it forward from there. So I hope the context that I talk about is fine with all of you and we can move forward.
Yes,
And
sure.
I'd like to hear something from all of you from the class. I would request you to just open your mic and respond to my queries, questions also. It will be great, right? No response? Any response?
Unmute unmute
Yeah, yeah,
also.
you can. Yeah, they're all in the mute mode. Yeah, we have just
Okay, you can unmute and speak to me.
we have unmuted them. Okay.
Yeah, unmuted all.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay,
So they're
okay. So, so when we talk about leadership communication, one of you, could you tell me what exactly is leadership communication? Anyone? So let me start. Let me start taking some names. Okay, Sarvesh.
Yes, sir. Sir, I'm really sorry. Could you repeat, sir? I'm sorry. Yeah.
So, according to you, what is a leadership communication?
Sir, her leadership communication, according to me, is one who leverages the best use of communication and make sure she is holistically ensuring that everybody is understanding what he or she as a leader tries to communicate. And yeah, that's pretty much an understanding of what I have about leadership
Okay.
communication.
So let me take one more response and then I'll move forward. So let me take names now. It will be easier for you all. Priyanka, you're coming in my sequence.
Yeah. Priyanka, are you there?
Ma'am, can you hear me?
Yes, yes,
Yes, we can all hear you. Please go ahead, unmute and speak.
According
there seems to be some network issue with Priyanka.
Okay, no problem. Anyone else can raise their hand and say, Shreya.
So leadership is something like the person who leads the team takes responsibility of doing the work, or he has the potential.
I think there is some issues, so I'll stop it here, but we'll again connect after this, okay? Mhm.
Yeah.
So when we talk about leadership communication, basically what we try to do is to build narratives around core messages. And when we say narrative, basically, we'd like to understand what are the perspectives that makes a person communicate to a target audience. So that's the key as far as the communication or leadership communication is concerned. So in a proper way, we can say the ability to convey and communicate to the intended audience in a precise, incisive. These words are important. Remember that, because without understanding these words, your communication will go all the places. So it should be intended audience, precise, incisive, real, emotional. You have to touch the chord of your emotion, of your audience. If you don't touch the chord, you won't be able to communicate, and in a manner which is personal. When you're talking to a group of people, the trick in communicating is to ensure that you're talking as if you're talking one on one, but you're communicating to the group. So everyone should feel that the speaker is intending to talk to you only, and it has a power. What does the communication do? It has a power to change and inspire people to achieve extraordinary results. So that's the basic of communication. And I can share from my experience as a person who has worked in media and entertainment. It's all about communicating what the audience wants. We do a lot of research in audience thinking, thoughts, what kind of a serial they would like to watch, what kind of entertainment program they would like to watch, what kind of a news they would like to watch. There's a lot of science that goes behind that. There are a lot of focus group discussions that happen. There's a lot of target audience that is connected with. And then we get all those insights, and based on that, we give that information to the producers. You would see a lot of episodes, serials coming up, which seems to be regressive. But the fact of the matter is that there is a need and a demand from majority of the society. They would like to watch that at a particular time, place, and so on and so forth. So there's a research and science. It's not random. Okay. So that's the way we talk about it. It's basically building narratives around core messages. That's the key. Okay. Now, there are several types of communication approaches. How do you go about it? What kind of a communication you need to do? What kind of a intent of communication is there? So basically, strategic communication is one area which we'll touch today because that's the topic. And as you know, communication is a very, very vast subject.
Yes.
It cannot be done in 45 minutes, but yes, this is the time limit and we'll try to do justice with that. So I will move to strategic communication and how it has really come into play. So we all know armed forces, the wars, and so on and so forth. So basically, the strategic communication evolved from conflict situations. And the reason was that in conflict situations, the generals of the army or the armed forces, they don't go to the front and fight it. There are leaders in the army or in the field who fight it. So basically, they wanted to provide the ground leaders with clear guidance on the approach to be taken in handling and defeating the adversary. because at that point of time, if they have got the clear information and insight, that's the way the the captain on the field or the major on the field or colonel on the field will go in and take a decision and work it according so that the army is victorious. So it evolved from there, and gradually what happened that organizations also started evolving. Now in 20th century, 21st century, we see how organizations have really developed. Lot of science, lot of work has gone through, and there's an evolution, and there's a lot of adoption of adjunct and other areas wherein management principles have been taken from. So in an organizational context, the strategic communication are typically delivered to enhance revenue profitability growth. Why? We'll talk about it. Brand salience. It's important to maintain the brand, manage competition, manage crisis situation like product failure. Now, you would remember when we talk about revenue and profitability growth, a lot of companies keep on doing mergers and acquisitions. So that's where the strategic communication comes into play. Then the lot of companies go in a high growth area. For example, Reliance has gone into a high growth area. They diversified, they did a lot of strategic communication. If you see how the geo was communicated to the people, that was where the communication came into play. Brand salience, we look at Hindustan Lever, the way they have managed their brands, the ITC, the way they have managed their brand. Manage competition whenever there are multiple competition which starts coming in. We have to really look at it, how the communication has to happen. Similarly, when we talk about strategic communication, so strategic communication also has a play in situation like a product failure. Now, I hope all of you would have remembered there was a Maggie crisis where the prevalence of lead was in a big way. So huge amount of crisis were blown out, and then people were just thinking that now Nestle is going to go into a huge trouble, and they did go through a bump, but they were able to overcome that. Or you take the case of Cadbury, where then there was a product failure, there were worms in the uh, chocolates. So there had to be a strategic communication.
Yeah.
So there had to be strategy. I think somebody has to mute.
Yeah. Sorry. Okay.
So there has to be some strategic communication behind that to the target audience. So the target audience could have been the people, the consumer, the employee, the shareholders, and so on forth. Then there's an environmental impact where strategic communication is done. For example, Bhopal gas incident. Now the communication was not done in a proper manner, so there's a huge problem which is still continuing. So there are good strategic communication, there are bad strategic communication, and examples that I gave to you are several of them. And then there are social media blowouts, which always happen. And then you understand how do you have to go and handle it. So in one of my stints, I was handling, there was an issue of improper behavior by one of the actors, and there was a huge amount of social media blowouts, and we had to really get into it and tackle it, put across our point of view, what exactly it happened, how it happened. We were not directly involved. It was being created by a production house, but the action was done by an actor. And how did you go about handling those situations? So that's in context of a strategic communication that we really look at it. The key aspect of a strategic communication, which is very important to remember, is that communication is pushed. Okay, this is important. It's a term, not the normal one. It's a push and deliver. Push and deliver information to create a set of narrative. It is very important because it's very focused communication. It's not a communication which is going left, right, and center. There's a target audience. It's an intended communication to set a narrative with a specific audience in mind to achieve a specific outcome. So when I say specific, and we spoke about it, it was in terms of revenue, profitability growth, brand, competition, crisis, product failure, employment related issues like lockouts, strikes, um, agitation, and so on and so forth, environment impact, where large organizations go for mining operations and so on and so forth. So that is what it is important. And this is important to understand that strategic communication is push and deliver information to create a set of narratives. Now, how does that happen? It's important because communication and strategic communication is also aligned to a leader, and it's about the leadership thinking or a leader's thought. So there are several industry leaders around, just very noted ones. We all see that, and if you observe them, they have three basic contexts in which they operate. One is cognitive. Every leader has a cognitive anchor, there's an emotional anchor, and there's a volitional anchor. When I say these three anchors, for any leader, you can look at any leader, every leader has a cognitive anchor. And when I say cognitive anchor, what it basically means is beliefs and values. So all leaders have beliefs and values. We might agree with some beliefs and values, we may not agree with some beliefs and values, but everyone has cognitive anchors which is aligned to their beliefs and values. Emotional is what emotional state they are in, how they really communicate, what exactly they wish to say. And the third one is volitional, which typically means what are they willing to do. Now, some of them are willing to do a lot of things. They are very cutthroat as far as their competitive spirit is concerned. Some are very social oriented. And we know, I'll not take names, we understand that there are drivers basis which all the leaders communicate. And if you look closely, these are the three anchors which really define the way the communication happens, or way the strategic communication happens with their employees, with the stakeholders, with the public, and so on and so forth. Okay, so this is the basic context in which this strategic communication happens. So I'll just stop for a second, and in case there is some question, anything that you have, any query you have, please let me know.
So would you like to ask any question, any of the students, based on what sir has just discussed? He touched upon strategic communication. Ifat, Chris, any questions there? Praveer, I would like to ask you, touched
Yeah.
upon the emotional aspect, how do you handle these, this concept, the emotional, you said, one needs to touch the chord and have that emotional aspect. Could you be a little bit more, could you give us more
Yeah.
insights on that?
Yeah, so when we talk about emotional aspect, as I said, every leader operates from three anchors, which is the value, the cognitive, emotional, and volition. Similarly, everyone who receives the communication also has those three aspects. So a leader is not separate from the recipient of the communication. So all of us have our own beliefs and values, our emotional state in which we operate, and our willingness to do or accept something. So, when I would like to communicate to someone, I would like to understand what emotional aspect a person is in. For example, during the time of appraisals, lot of employees are in a state of emotion where they would like to see that how their salary will go and how their salary will increase during this appraisal cycle. So the emotional state is more in terms of compensation and so on and so forth. So the strategic communication or the expectation from the audience is that what is the leader going to talk about in this appraisal cycle? How will be the increment percentage would be, whether there'll be promotions or not, whether they'll be get some career growth or not. So that is the emotional aspect that any leader would like to touch upon, and that's where the receptivity starts happening.
Sure, I think we can proceed, yeah.
Okay. So when we talk about the strategic communication, there's any communication that needs to happen has to have a plan. And typically there are five steps to that plan. And we all know it. You all know it, and you have been taught in your classes. It's the four W, three W's and a H. That is whom, why, what, how. But there's an additional to that is evaluate. So when I say the four W's, whom to communicate, basically identify the audience, who are the stakeholders, and so on and so forth. And there are several stakeholders. We could say the government officials, the politicians, the employees, the shareholders, the civil society, the interest groups, and so on and so forth. So that is important, that whom do you wish to communicate. The second is, why do you want to communicate? So we would like to communicate to let the stakeholders know about the goals and objectives. Third is, what do you want to communicate? Now that is where it's very important, that how do we develop the key messages? That, and that requires a lot of effort in terms of understanding the ground realities, understanding the scenario in which the business is operating, or the scenario in which the strategic communication is directed. And fourth one is how we will communicate. That is important, and we'll be touching there when we talk about selecting rich communication channels. That is where the communication channels come into play and how it is going to be deployed. But these are the three Y's and one H, followed by evaluate. In a strategic communication, we also evaluate the impact. The key is impact of a communication by looking at the lead and the lagging indicators. So remember that there's a process behind it. It's not only just speaking and telling, it's also about understanding and also evaluating whether the message has landed properly and whether it is effective. If it is not effective, there's a need for a course correction. So that's the basic as far as the strategic communication uh, is really looked at in an organizational context.
Sure.
So I hope it's okay. Any questions? I'll just hold for a second and then I'll move to selecting rich communication channels.
I think
Okay.
Sir, I have a question.
Yeah.
Sir, in case we are intending to communicate towards a targeted audience and our communication fails, how will you handle such a failure and how will you rectify it?
Yeah. Good question. So when we look at any communication that happens, and as I spoke to you, we need to have these 5 elements very well defined. If you defined it well in terms of whom, why, what, how, chances are that the communication doesn't fail. But perchance, if the communication fails, then in the evaluation phase, we understand that where it failed with the leading and the lagging indicators. So the leading indicators will give immediate information about the place of default, and then we need to do a follow-up. So communication is not a one-time aspect; it has to be done in a cycle. So, for example, when you look at any communication, one communication follows by another, followed by another, and followed by another. So, if there is some pitfalls or if there is some issue somewhere, it has to be redone and re-communicated to the people.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So, moving to selecting rich communication channels, this is important because end of the day, whatever we do, we need to also communicate to the intended audience. So basically, the medium or the channel is a vehicle of transmission of messages. And this is decided basis the intended audience by doing the segmentation. And when I say segmentation, basically looking at the target group. So there could be youngsters, there could be Gen X, Y, Z, as we always talk in our management parlance. We would talk about the digital native consumers. We talk about various segments, stratas. So there's huge amount of segmentation basis which the communication channels are typically selected. And there's also, and it is not that it is one targeted one, there's an interplay of traditional and the new age tools of communication. So when we say traditional, that is typically radio, news, television, print, and so on and so forth. And the new age, we all are aware, you all are aware, you are part of that new age group. So it's all the medium of Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, online surveys, vlogs, blogs. The online surveys have a very powerful role. We talk about several times when we want to do a poll. Now, polling gives a lot of information into the question that surveys just asked some time back. If the communication has not landed clearly, you do a survey. A survey monkey is unleashed or some other survey tool is unleashed, and we get to know that where the communication landed or not landed. So that helps us in terms of really identifying what is the communication channel that you wish to really look at, and then how we go ahead in terms of deploying the communication. So typically, when you look at a channel, we look at again, I'm trying to compress it in so that you can remember. There are four kinds of channels that we really look at. One is oral, second is written, third is visual, and fourth is digital. So these are the four channels in which communication is typically done, and there are tools deployed to that. In a oral is a face-to-face, town hall, so on and so forth. So that's the way the channels come into place. In organizational context, during the quarterly communication session, leaders like all the C-suite leaders, the HR, the finance, the CEO, they would like to talk about the communication. They would like to communicate to the employees how the company has performed, what are the challenges ahead, what are the things that's happening. So, for example, in one of my companies, we went ahead and set up a communication channel called, it was called Upfront. I'll not name the name. It was called Upfront. And in Upfront, the CEOs were sitting right in front of the company, and everybody had open access to the top management to ask questions. So that's the oral way of looking at it in terms of how the entire channel gets communicated. Then the written are the memos and so on so forth, the print, and then the print is there and so on so forth. The visual is again the presentation and so on so forth, and then finally the digital, which you all are aware so well. And that's the key, because the access to digital is there today, but there are also issues which we need to really look at it. So, for example, in an oral face-to-face communication, there's no permanency to that. It is just when you speak, the impact is there and then it gets depleted. There's no control. Once we speak, that's that. So if you make a mistake in communication, then there will be some issues. In a written, you directly communicate. There is no option of getting a feedback immediately. It takes time. So written has that type of a challenge. It takes time, resource, and so on and so forth. So not very prevalent. Visual is mostly done because it's easy. You create a PowerPoint, you create something, you create a video and put it across, and people see it. But it requires again a very specialized skills to do that. Each of them has their positives and negatives, but it's important to understand that which channel, which medium will be important to select. Digital, we all know how it entails, but the biggest challenge that is happening in digital currently is the privacy and security risk. So we should remember that in today's context, everybody is digital native. We all are news broadcasters. We are all broadcasting people. Earlier, the broadcasters were there, but today, every individual who has a smartphone in their hand is a news broadcaster, news creator, news consumer, and so on and so forth. But the challenge is about the authenticity of news. Fake news is a challenge we all know, and it has come up because everybody is a broadcaster, and we can keep on sending, forwarding whatever we wish, and it has its own challenges. So it entails privacy and security risk, and it also requires it will require a lot of litigation skills to manage in case there's a blow. So remember that these are the things which is important when you select any rich communication channels. But the three key things to select a rich communication challenge is what kind of a message you wish to send, who is the audience, and what is your budget. So these are three things: message, audience, and budget. If you know your message, if you know your audience, and if you know your budget, it's very easy to select the channels that you wish to do amongst the four that I spoke of, that is oral, written, visual, and digital. This is the way to really look at the landscape. Okay. So I'll again hold for a second here. We are running against time, but still we'll try to catch up if I get the permission from Professor to extend for some time. I
Yes.
hope it's okay.
We will try to wind up by 1:30.
Okay, done. So we have another 20 minutes. I'll try to wind up. So this is the second one that I wanted to talk to you. Any questions? I'll just hold for some time and then move forward.
Hi, sir. This is Kangana here. As you said about messages and communication, I just wanted to know what is the role of customized communication that has been picked up by most of the leadership in the era of transformation, digital transformation.
So when you say customized communication, what exactly, can you expand a bit on that?
Sir, it's the mode wherein we can see a lot of one-to-one interaction that has been picked up among teams or cross teams in that scenario.
So I hope you remember when we talk about strategic communication, typically a strategic communication is for a group on a large setting. When we talk about one-to-one communication, then it's a very different type of a communication. It's not a strategic communication, it's a different communication as we talk about. But to your question, when we talk about customized communication, there are times when very targeted communication has to be done to tackle specific challenges. Then the customized communications are done, which is again based on the three W's and one H followed by E. It's important why we wish to do, what we want to do, whom we want to do it, and it's anchored to the context in which that communication is made. So for example, if there is a crisis that has happened or there's a strike that has happened in an organization and you want to make a customized communication, a customized communication in this case would be the employees, the union members, or the striking employees. So there's a
Yes, sir.
targeted communication for that set of people only. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Similarly, when
Yes.
we want to make a communication, very customized communication, say for an environmental impact issue. So there's a spillage in a company, there's an oil spillage. How do we go about in terms of managing that? In that, there's a customized communication. So
Sure, sir.
basically, what we need to know is that what is my primary goal of communication? What is the thing that I want to communicate? And how am I going to communicate?
Sure, sir. Thank you, sir.
Right.
So the third topic that I wish to look at is again impact of leadership communication using Johari window. Now this is not on the strategic communication, and it's good that you asked me that question. It segues very well in this part of the discussion. Uh, when we talk about Johari window, we all know what Johari window is all about, right? I hope everybody is aware, right? Some answers.
You can use the chat box, otherwise students, some of y'all are having a connectivity issue. You can use the chat box extensively. Have we covered Johari window? Yes or no in your PGL in SEM 1? No responses.
Okay, no problem. So what I will do, I will take it forward then in a very, pres what should I say, in a very summarized manner. So, you know, a Johari window is a very simple concept, not a simple concept, very important concept, but it's good to understand and know about it because we use it day in, day out. So Johari window is basically four quadrant model in which there are four quadrant. One is known to self, second is unknown to self, known to others, and unknown to others. And in the four quadrants, on the right hand side, top right is the blind spot. So top left, if I remember correctly, it's long time back, Dr. Padmaja, it was 24 years back. No, not 24 years, I think 26 years back. On the right hand side is your blind spot. Right hand top is blind spot. Left hand top is arena. Left hand bottom is facade. Right hand uh, bottom right is your unknown. So these are the four quadrants that we talk of, and it's very important to understand. So when we talk about the Johari window, basically it's mostly used for one-on-one small group communication. Since the subject is an individual who engages with one of the key element of trust. So the subject is basically working on trust, thereby revealing himself about others, himself or herself about others, about two others, which while the leader or the person to whom the subject is sharing the information helps the subject by providing constructive feedback. So there's a interplay of trust and feedback. So I, as an individual, inherently trusts an individual other person and shares my feeling, while the person who is recipient of that will give me the feedback basis which I will start moving on that. And while the leaders definitely provide the feedback, mostly they should provide the constructive feedback and thereby increasing the area or the quadrant on the top. It's tough to talk to you, but if you know the concept, it will be easy. You increase the arena quadrant. If you know, arena quadrant has to be gets increased when the feedback is received in a particular manner, and that reduces the area of facade and the blind spot. So it's the conceptual thing. If you have understood Johari window well, you will understand how the communication has to happen. So the communication is basically anchored to trust and feedback. If you trust, if the person is trusting and getting the right set of feedback, there's a huge amount of difference that an individual can make on that. So that's what it's about, the Johari window. I hope it gives you some understanding as far as this concept is concerned.
Yes, yes. We've covered Johari Window for them in SEM 1 and linked it to leadership in SEM 4.
Yeah, yeah.
Mr. Praveer, I would, if you may permit me to intervene here, what would be the extra mile that the leader would take to create that climate of trust and openness amongst his followers and amongst his team members? You know, to build that climate of trust is so essential.
Yeah. So when you talk about climate of trust, basically it's all about being authentic. As a leader, whatever we practice, whatever we preach, we need to practice. We say a lot of things, but we are not genuine. So one thing that I have learned in my leadership journey is that we know what is right and what is wrong, but we need to also project it in that particular manner that yes, this is the way to do it. So a lot of times the trust comes from genuineness. Trust comes from what you are practicing instead of just preaching. There's a lot of times when there's an authenticity issue. We say something, but we don't do it. So a lot of times leaders are not authentic. uh, Being economical with truth is very important. Several times we are not saying what is supposed to be said, and at times compromising on the values, beliefs of the organization. That's where these things starts coming up, and people start losing trust. So trust is gained over a period of time by our own actions, and trust is lost similarly by our own actions and our own approach that we take.
Right. Okay.
Okay. So, and again, I think you have asked the right question, because now we are getting into communicating into crisis, and that's where the sense of urgency, transparency, and empathy comes into play. Because if a leader has an empathetic approach, then that also helps a person to really be seen as a trusted leader, trusted business partner. So this one, when we talk about in communicating in crisis, basically what is a crisis? It's a disruption uh, triggering negative stakeholder response that can impact an organization's reputation, static business objectives, and viability to operate. So we need to really look at it on that context. Basically, first we need to define what is a crisis. It could be anything. It could be unexpected, unusual, unseen, abnormal, complex situation, which could be a threat to organizational existence or reputation. There could be strategic objectives or individuals, regulatory compliance requirements, and so on and so forth. There are a whole host of crises that comes in. So when any organization is confronted by a crisis, the first step is to confirm that the leadership is dealing with a genuine crisis as opposed to some sensational news coverage or a passing social storm. So the genuineness of the crisis has to be established before you start even dealing with the crisis. And it's not just a sensational news. In today's world, we get so many things and then we start reacting to it. So reaction is not important. First, understanding and establishing is more important. Then there should be an urgency, transparency, and empathy in dealing with it. There are several examples. So you know all about, you should read about it. What happened to Boeing 747 MAX, Wells Fargo, where employees started creating accounts, Facebook privacy issues, and so on and so forth. So one needs to read these as case studies and understand that how they had handled the crisis. Some crises have been handled well, some crises have not been handled well. For example, a good way of handling the crisis was the Maggie crisis, or the Cadbury, it was handled well. The Bhopal gas crisis was not handled well. Zomato handled the crisis very well. Similarly, these are kinds of things in the Indian context is there. In the global context, again, you all have seen the movie Deep Horizon. It's a very nice movie. Go and have a look at it. it is a classic case of how the crisis was not handled properly by BP, and they really had paid huge price for it. $70 billion was the cost. So it's important for us to understand those crises and how the crisis was dealt with. So typically the crisis usually spread at a very fast pace. It is not that crisis happens at its own place. It will just blow out. That is what crisis is. And it requires a strategic management. It's very important to know that. So how do you go about it in terms of managing the crisis? One is getting prepared to manage a crisis. And when you get prepared, not when the crisis has happened, you need to be prepared much before the crisis has happened in terms of understanding the scenarios that could create some crisis. It could be social, it could be business, it could be operational, it could be regulatory, it could be environmental. So there's a crisis management simulation, what needs to do, and then understand how it's going to happen. But the most important in that again comes the communication. So basically, when you talk about communication, we need to have very good stakeholders with the good relationship with the stakeholders by communicating, having that relationship, delivering essential information in a quick and a transparent manner. That's very important. Share what you don't know in addition to what you do know. That's the key. You should also share by understanding what you don't know. Because a lot of times the questions will be around that what you don't know, sir, you please tell us this has happened. And I'm in a position not to say that, but we need to have an understanding and a say on that. Then we should also provide safe channel for feedback. So a lot of times what happens, the crisis management takes a hit because we are not ready to listen. We only say, we don't listen. So active listening would be very important, and managing media management skills and training will be very important in managing a crisis scenario. So basically the take is communication has a role in everything that you do, and communication is the basis of success for leaders. If you have a good communication, if you have articulate communication, if you have worked on your communication, if you really keep on developing your communication, it's a lifelong process. You are always better than yesterday if you have put effort on yourself. So focus on your communication. The first impact in your campus interview, in your job interview, is the way you open your mouth and say the first word. Remember that. That's the key. First impression lasts the longest. Okay. Most of the interview decisions are made in the first 10 seconds. You all know it. Appearance, non-verbal cues are the most important thing. In any communication, words have a weightage of 30%. Non-verbal communication has a weightage of 60%. Rest, leave it to chance. Okay, so that's the way it goes all about it. And in a crisis, it's all about an integrated communication using all the channels that we spoke of, all the approaches we spoke about strategic communication. And if it's all brought together, then I think there should not be any problem as far as the entire thing is concerned.
Would you like to share any of your personal experiences in your professional life, Pravir, so that it could have it could connect?
Yeah, there are in all most of the HR guys have faced crisis of several severe magnitude. So I was handling a scenario where there was a blowout in the plant, and there were two fatalities. No, not two. There were 20 fatalities. So it was a big crisis situation, and we had riots in our hands in the plant. And I was the HR person there at on the site and ground, and that was a time when I really understood what exactly it means to handle a crowd which is agitated, violent, and which is hell bent on creating a huge loss to the organization. So at that point of time, the most important thing was first to understand the emotion of the crowd, understand what you need to say to them. You could not do anything else because there was a huge fatality. 20 people dying is not a small thing, and you are the only person, and a mob is there to baying for your blood, and they would kill you any moment. But the take was that you have to stand in front of them, understand what they are saying, assuage their feeling with all the right words. You need to communicate to them that yes, we are here, we are very sorry for what has happened, but we are there with you and this hour of grief. So that is where you need to show your leadership strength. You need to communicate. You need to be bold. You need to be also authentic and trustful to them. They know that if the person is saying something, that person is willing to do the extra mile. I was not a very senior person. I was not a decision maker, but I was senior enough to communicate and convince my seniors at that point of time that yes, this is the tragedy that has befallen. There's a huge amount of empathy that we are showing towards the individuals, and we are willing to help. We are willing to acknowledge what has gone wrong, and we are willing to rectify it going forward. So those are the things that one has to really think about it and then communicate to them. And I think that was a big learning also for me. There were a lot of things that I took off from there, and it has really changed me as an individual. But it also gives you a lot of confidence and courage that going forward, if I'm going to face some kind of that situation, I'll be able to handle very well. And the things that I spoke of in terms of communication, in terms of body language, in terms of projecting trust, empathy, authenticity, those things are very important to handle that.
Primarily be with them, be with your team and speak the truth.
Yes, you have to speak the truth. You have to also acknowledge what you don't know. And at times it's good to be vulnerable at that point of time, but you need to be careful also not to be taken for a ride. So it is trust, but verify, be truthful, but be guarded. So it's a very fine balance that you have to take at that point of time because your personal safety is also at risk. So
Right.
remember that it's not easy.
Not at all easy. Correct. So I think this topic of leadership communication, it looks quite theoretical, from the context point of view, but when you actually go deep into it, how vast and how deep one could, imagine, particularly the last segment that you touched upon, leadership in crisis, and how leaders, it is their onus and their responsibility to take care of the situation and control the emotions at that point of time. Well, then, Praveer, is there anything else that you'd like to share, or are we done with the session?
So a quick one, I'll not take more than a minute because I wanted to touch upon that. It's important. It's about empathetic communication. This is the key. This is the fifth topic that you had given, and I'd like them, the students, to understand why it is important. It's very important because I would just quote one dialogue from. It's you all. I don't know how many of you have seen this movie. It's To Kill a Mockingbird. It's a very nice movie. Have a look at it. It really talks about one thing. You never really understand a person until you consider things from his point of view, until you climb into his skin and walk around in it. So I'll repeat again, you never really understand a person until you consider things from his point of view,
Yeah.
until you climb into his skin and walk around in it. That's the key. And that's it. That is what is all about empathetic communication.
Well, it's a great session. Students, any questions, any queries, or any points that you would like to put forward to Sir? Sir is a seasoned HR professional, and we are so happy that we could have him amidst us for this important topic on leadership communication. Any one of you? I can see about 28 students there. Anyone?
Yes, I'm.
Any point that you would like to make? Vaishnavi, Sarvesh, Ifat, we have a lot of survey information about 30% of them have already been placed with premier companies such as Deloitte. Uh, they're all likely to join the workplace in the next 3 months. So they're just waiting for their semester exams to get over. So these kind of professional inputs from industry experts would have a larger impact on them. And
No,
all
it's very nice to know that they have got placed. Only thing I can say, the world is different from college and campus to the, the professional world. Things will change in a big way. Expectations will be very high because the company is paying you for the service you're providing. So there's a difference. One needs to understand. It's a professional world. It's something you have to add value to yourself. You have to give value to the organization. If the value is coming to the organization, you're bound to move forward. So remember that it's all about value addition, both from the company side and also from your side.
Thank you, sir. We'll keep that point in our mind, definitely.
Thank you, Vaishnavi.
Vaishnavi, would you like to wind up and propose the vote of thanks?
Yes, sir. Thank you so much, sir, for your time and wise words. It has been an honor to have you today as a guest lecturer. And on behalf of the entire HR faculty of Ramaiah Institute of Management, I would like to extend my heartfelt gratitude. Thank you for letting us know how important it is to communicate effectively and also to communicate not just to reply but to understand the other perspective as well. We students will always remember how important it is to be our authentic self and remember the importance of first expression. And also, thank you for letting us know the concept of empathetic communication. And you're the coolest for bringing in the reference of a very classic film to kill a mockingbird.
So with that, I think we come to the end of this session. Thank you, Mr. Praveer, so much for taking out your precious time and sharing your inputs and your knowledge with our students. We hope our students have good takeaways from this session, and we look forward to more such meaningful sessions from you. On behalf of our director and the entire team from Ramaiah Institute of Management, we express our sincere thanks and deep sense of gratitude for this session. Thank you so much, Mr. Praveer. If you can just stay on, we'll just have a group photograph with Vaishnavi. Will you take one
Yes,
photograph?
ma'am. Yes, ma'am. I would like to request if everyone can come to the camera so we can click a final picture, guys.
Suman, Ashwin,
So while you were taking the photograph, let me thank you all. Thank you, Dr. Padmaja, for giving me the chance to talk to the students. And best wishes to all of you. I'm sure you will have a very bright future. Keep working on yourself. Never think that, as I said, you're always better than yesterday. So keep working on that and be a better self version of yourself every next day and feel proud of yourself. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
who's taking the photograph? Is it Vaishnavi or Sarvesh?
Yes, ma'am. I just clicked a few. If anyone else can also click for other reference, whichever pics will take it.
Sarvesh, can you do that?
Yes, ma'am, even I'm doing.
Are we done?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Praveer. We shall share the recording of this session with you soon.
Yeah,
And we look forward to you with us amidst us once again. Thank you.
yeah. Thank you. Best of luck.
Thank you for this session. Thank you.